We are calling the meeting to order. Good morning. It is the MPO meeting, the Policy Board meeting. It's Monday, October 21st. Do we have Pastor Jim Harp here?
We do.
Sir, would you please lead us in prayer? Let's stand, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
That we can do.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day. And Lord, we thank you that your plans are never thwarted. Your ways are above our ways, your thoughts above our thoughts. And we thank you, God, that you're never in a hurry and you're never late. And so, God, thank you for these truths we glean from your word. Lord, I want to pray this morning for not just for this meeting, but I pray especially, as I always do, for these that you've placed in leadership over us in Martin County. We thank you for them, Father. We ask your blessing upon them, upon their families, all the situations and circumstances in their lives. Lord, we all have stuff, and Lord, we seek your help and your guidance and your wisdom and your direction and all those things. I pray for wisdom, Lord, for this committee. I pray, God, that you'll guide and direct them for the benefit of those that they serve here in this community. Again, we thank you for them. Thank you for placing them in leadership, Lord, and just give them joy in what they do. I know there's a lot of problems and circumstances and decisions to make, but Lord, would you give them joy and give them a sense of satisfaction and peace knowing that they're doing the work that you've called them to do. So bless this day for all of us. Lord, may we experience your grace and your mercy and your goodness in all that we do. And I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Doug. It was a train wreck. We're glad to see you. It was a train wreck. We're glad to see you.
Great. Start. That's great. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our MPO meeting, Monday, October 21st, 2024. Did we do roll call yet or no?
No.
All right, I'll call roll. I'm a little new here, so if you guys could just say your name when you do a first and a second, whatnot.
I just wanted to introduce Margie Tamblin. I think I have at a prior meeting. She's actually the senior planner, and she volunteered to take minutes today because we don't have an admin assistant. So if you could, when you make a motion, just state your name. Yes, state your name first, please, as well as when you second it.
Welcome, Margie.
All right, Commissioner Doug Smith. Commissioner Sarah Hurd.
Here.
Commissioner Stacy Hetherington.
Here.
Commissioner Harold Jenkins.
Here.
Commissioner Edward Campy.
Here.
Commissioner Chris Collins. Commissioner Kaya Mayfield.
She might be late.
Council members Council member Susan Gibbs Thomas.
Here.
And Commissioner Sean Reed.
Here.
Okay.
Heard moves approval of the agenda.
Oh, wait, she's not paying attention. Hurd moves
Okay.
the agenda. Can't be seconds.
Here, you sit here.
I seconded it. I didn't make the motion. Ow, ow.
Calm your jets. Goodness. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second by Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Campbell. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The MPO minutes from September 16th, 2024. We need a motion to approve.
Heard moves.
Second.
And that would be Commissioner Jenkins. No, you have to tell her. Waving doesn't help.
Commissioner Harold.
It's going to be a long meeting. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Comments from the public. Anybody from the public wish to address us this morning on any issue? Okay.
Nobody. No,
You sure?
absolutely positive. I was hoping we had.
That's the second one.
No.
Third one you get to.
Nope.
Okay. Nope. Okay, Beth. Item A, 8A, 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan, LRTP, Public Involvement Plan.
Yes, as you know, the Long Range Transportation Plan, or LRTP, is one of our federally required products that we update every 5 years. It does have our 25-year planning horizon, and it's the biggest plan that we do at the MPO. We have Vikas Jain from TY Lin International to talk about the public involvement plan and discuss the outreach that we're going to have during the development of this project. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Vikas.
Thank you, Beth. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. I'm Vikas Jain with TY Lin. I'm your consultant project manager for the 2050 LRTP. As Beth mentioned, the LRTP is one of your core work products. This, as many of you may know, it sets the blueprint for transportation network and improvements over the next 20 to 25 years in Martin County. We are very excited to kick off this planning process with you, and I look forward to working with each one of you over the next year and a half. Quick outline of my presentation this morning. I'll walk you through the public involvement plan. And before I do that, I'll provide a quick project overview and then wrap up with next steps. So for those who have been involved in this planning process before, this may look a little familiar. There are 4 main phases of the LRTP. It begins with public involvement plan. We put together a 2050 needs plan, needs assessment, which is based on a lot of technical analysis as well as public input. We prepare a draft 2050 cost feasible plan, and then the final cost feasible plan for adoption. There are 2 other boxes here that show some of the technical analysis. Again, there will be a draft vision statement, goals, objectives, performance measures, as well as the technical analysis will include travel demand forecasting, projecting future year revenues 25 years out in 5-year increments, doing project prioritization, and developing a list of projects. And throughout this process, we'll have extensive public involvement, agency coordination with your partner agencies, local jurisdictions, FDOT, and as you can see on this slide, we'll be coming back to you throughout this planning process almost on a quarterly basis. From project timeline standpoint, we are looking at a 20-month project schedule. We began back in April of this year, looking at final plan adoption in October of next year. To date, we have completed public involvement plan, which is what I'll walk you through on the next several slides, as well as we have put together a draft vision statement, collected a variety of data, and done some documentation as well. Again, at the bottom of this slide, you can see the various MPO advisory committee meetings and board meetings where we'll bring this item back to you. So we developed a robust public involvement plan for this 2050 LRTP planning process. It's robust in that there, as you can see, there is multiple communication channels, tools, activities that we'll be implementing throughout the next year and a half to gather public input and input from various agencies. First off, to develop a unique identity for this project, we developed this logo that you can see. It's Martin Moves and the tagline, Martin Moves 2050. Again, this is to get the word out. It also shows in the logo different modes that kind of depicts the multimodal nature of this plan. I'll share the project video as well as information on the public website and some of the other items that are on this list on the next several slides. Before I do that, real quick, here's the draft vision statement. I'll just read it loud. Establish a framework to create and maintain a safe, connected, resilient, multimodal transportation system that provides mobility and accessibility options for Martin County's residents and visitors in a sustainable, healthy, and equitable manner. This is a broad vision statement, as most vision statements are. It touches on national goals as well as federal and state planning emphasis areas, which is PEAs. And for this year's PEAs, it's safety, sustainability, equity, and emerging mobility. So we have our public meetings, which will be conducted in open house format. These will be in-person meetings. There will be several interactive exercises that attendees will be able to participate, provide their input. They'll have an opportunity to participate in a survey. This survey will be administered both in hard copy format as well as tablets and digital format, so they can choose how they want to participate. The first meeting is coming up next month on November 19th in Stewart, and the next one is a little bit further out on January 16th. These will be visioning sessions, so it'll be open-ended to get input on transportation issues, improvements upfront. As we put together a draft cost feasible plan, which will be about summer of next year, we'll hold and conduct another public workshop. And those details will be coming out as we figure out the location and other details. I'm very excited to share a project video. This is a promotional video that our public involvement specialist, Quest, has put together. The intent of this video is to promote the project, get the word out, get everyone excited, encourage folks to visit the website, take survey, and participate in the planning process. After this meeting, the video will be sort of broadcast and shared with the public for mass consumption through this various different media outlets shown here. And with that, let's look at the video.
In a world where movement defines progress, the Martin Metropolitan Planning Organization's Long-Range Transportation Plan is more than just a roadmap. It's a vision for the future. Imagine a county where every journey is seamless, where transportation is safe, sustainable, and accessible to all. The 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan, or LRTP, is not just about today, but about the next generation and beyond.
Our 2050 LRTP is our 25-year planning horizon document that'll be our guidebook for the transportation projects in Martin County. And we're very excited about that.
With innovative solutions, and most importantly, community input, we're shaping a future where transportation enhances the quality of life.
Transportation is extremely important. There's individuals who solely rely on that transportation service. And it's imperative for them, knowing that there's a bus system that will be there every morning.
The LRTP is a commitment to sustainability, safety, and resilience. From roads, bicycle lanes, sidewalks, freight, and waterways, the MPO's LRTP looks to enhance all aspects of the transportation network.
The infrastructure has not caught up with the demand of supply, and we don't have the roads to carry all these trucks.
Through planning and collaboration, we're ensuring that Martin County moves towards a better future. The Long-Range Transportation Plan is paving the way for a smarter, greener, and more inclusive tomorrow. Join us on this journey towards a better future. Participate in our survey, attend our workshops and meetings, and share your vision. For more information on how you can get involved, visit our website at martinnpo.com. Martin Moves 2050. Together, let's plan a better future for Martin County.
So that's the video. That'll be, as I mentioned, we'll be sharing that widely. We also have a project webpage. The project webpage sits on the Martin MPO website. The URL here, we made sure that the project webpage is ADA accessible. There's a QR code so that folks can easily access. They don't have to remember the entire URL. There's an online survey. Again, the online survey is up and running as we speak. There are 10 questions. It's available both in Spanish and English. And the questions, somebody can take this survey in less than 5 minutes. They can spend as much as 15 minutes. Again, the questions are related to transportation issues and improvements that folks may want to see in the 2050 LRTP. There are several other public outreach activities besides the visioning sessions or in-person meetings on the website. Some of them are listed here. We'll be conducting one-on-one interviews. We'll be getting your input over the next couple of months as thought leaders, and there'll be informational booths and some targeted outreach that we'll be conducting as well. Just in closing, our next steps will be implementing the PIP. We'll continue our data collection, technical analysis, and then we'll come back to you and share some information on goals, objectives, and some initial public feedback that we'll receive in the next couple of months in December. With that, thank you, and I'll open up for questions, comments.
Fantastic. Anybody have any questions? Nope.
Susan.
Oh, Susan, I'm sorry.
Me. No, that's okay. It's okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Question, I see that there are visioning sessions that are currently planned in Stewart and in Palm City, and you said that you have others planned also?
These are the two visioning sessions that'll happen up front early on, and there will be one that'll happen in summer of next year, which will be where we'll share the draft cost feasible plan when we'll put the plan together.
Okay, now the tagline, "A Better Future for Martin County," I heard that in there. Better Future for Martin County is, well, I would, and what I am getting at is that those visioning statements needs to include all of Martin County. I would I'd like to encourage that maybe visioning sessions also include South County, North County, and West County. Palm City is definitely not west. There's further west that needs to be considered also.
And just for clarification, we do plan, MPO staff does plan to give presentations at the Indian Council meeting, as well as the Chambers of Commerce's in the different areas of the county. Last time, for 2045, we actually did do a breakfast, or maybe that was 2040, but we will reach out to that. The visioning statements are the ones that the consultant is involved in. Staff will be doing a lot more with the Chambers of Commerce, some nonprofits like the United Way, homeowners associations, so a number of different events, if you will. So we will make sure we carry.
And I appreciate the presentations, and get that information out. But visioning sessions has a total connotation to me.
Sure.
As to a presentation. One is just presenting, the other is listening.
Sure.
So that's my desires, to make sure that all of the county is listened to. Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
So with that, Beth, let's plan on adding at least Indiantown and South County in a formalized visioning, along with Stewart and along with Palm City. Okay. Mr. Reed?
Yeah, was there a survey deadline date, like when the survey would close? And was there any limitations on the survey, or could a person do the survey over and over, or would it stop them from constantly doing the survey?
Both good questions. So there is a survey. We'll close out the survey in March, and the idea is we'll have our needs plan that will be presented to this board in April. So we want to make sure that we get that information ahead of time that can feed into the needs plan. Anybody can take the survey as many times as they want. So there's no limitation that it has to be like a unique survey or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Okay. Beth, thank you.
This is an action item.
Sorry. So you want a motion to approve the direction?
The public involvement plan that was included in your agenda packet.
With the modifications to adding South County and Indiantown.
I'll move approval of the public involvement plan, adding visioning sessions in Indiantown and South County.
Can't be seconds.
Heatherington, sorry, that was.
Got that. Any public discussion on the item? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Beth, item 8A or 8B, please. Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP.
Application, yes, this is the South Dixie Highway Improvements TAP application that the City of Stewart is here to present. There have been some changes since their last presentation and some additional public outreach as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to the city staff.
Thank you. Thank
Mel,
you, Beth.
good morning.
Good morning. I'm here to update the board on the design of the Dixie Highway Improvements Project. Last time we were here, there were some concerns about the project. We were proposing one-way traffic. There were also some discussion on expanding the boundary of the project to include the confusion corner, redesigning that confusion corner, which is in the presentation, but that'll be the last slide that we could discuss. We wanted to discuss the scope of the work that we actually applied for. Right, forward.
Use a mouse wheel.
There you go, sorry. So you've seen this multiple times. The scope of the work is improvements along Dixie Highway from Joan Jefferson to Ocean Boulevard and Colorado Avenue.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
I'm sorry.
Can we make it full screen just so that it's a little bit bigger? Please. Thank you.
So this is our typical section. The city has a lease agreement with FEC for those on-street parking, and the city did apply for an amendment to the lease agreement to see if we could make any modification in the FEC right-of-way. It took almost a year to get back a response from them, and they basically said they don't want us to make any modification into their right-of-way because there is a 25-foot clearance requirement from the second track that was installed, and also there's some, if there's a future train station, and if they need to make any modification to the track at that time, they don't want to give any permission to the city to make any modification at this time. So now we're limited to only 20 foot of city's right-of-way. You'll note that 2 feet of our travel lane is actually in the FEC right-of-way. So if they don't want us to make any modification, what we want to do is just work within the city's right-of-way. So should they ask us to remove those on-street parking, we can easily do that and just put that location into the condition that it was prior to installing those on-street parking. After the meeting, we did go back out to the community and presented different options, and the consensus was they do want to keep two-way traffic. So the proposal that we have today before you, it is two-way traffic, and we also went to the CRB board, CRA board, and received approval on the conceptual that you're going to see today. And as far as the confusion corner, that's currently not in the scope, but we can discuss that after we discuss the scope of the project. Now I have Joe Capra here. He's going to go through the details of the design.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Capra for the record. First of all, as you can see, we've actually been working on this for a couple of years. There's been changes, I guess, from the last time we were in front of you. You asked for some changes. We actually came back to that, okay? So just so you know, maybe we saw the light, but essentially we've been to numerous public meetings, not only with your advisory committees, the CAC, the TAC, basically several committees at the City of Stewart as well as the City Commission. And I only bring that up because we've actually met with the neighborhood a couple times, and they've told us what they would like. Most of it's consistent with what we're proposing today. And last but not least, we basically also met one-on-one with the property owners that are directly affected by this change, okay? So as pretty much Panel mentioned, the difference here is we're trying to work on a typical section that is probably going to change from what you see out there today. We've always were going to make a change, but the biggest one was that the FEC has asked us to to consider not using that 12.5 FEC lease at this point and for the future improvements. That doesn't mean we got to take it out of place, take those spaces out. It just means that they want the flexibility that they can ask us to remove those spaces. So I think that's probably the biggest item. I know a couple things that we've heard in the past from the residents as well as the boards is we are going to be going to 2 10-foot lanes, one in each direction. And what you see on the left side here is an existing sidewalk. If you go out there today, you'll see that the sidewalk goes up and down in various fashions. Sometimes it does have a 6-inch curb next to it. Sometimes it doesn't meet ADA. We're planning on fixing that. So the improvements throughout the corridor will again make them safe and provide the 5-foot sidewalk there. And although it shows existing sidewalk, we plan on improving that sidewalk. Let me see if I can go back the other way. So this is a plan view, and on the top of the screen is Joan Jefferson Way, the roundabout. On the bottom of the screen is the Confusion Corner area. Essentially, what we plan on doing is, I'll just go from south to north, is there's already two-way traffic in this area. We are going to maintain that two-way traffic. What you see here is pavers. We were talking about a pervious paver for the roadway itself, asphalt, then some pervious pavers. Some of the, just so everybody knows, some of the patterns will be different so that you can distinguish an intersection and so forth, but the idea is we thought it'd be nice to try to improve upon the texture in this area, so pervious pavers are being proposed in this whole area. The intersections with the side streets, such as 3rd Street, will come in more perpendicular. Side streets with Camden will again be coming more perpendicular. We still have the coral stained sidewalks. The same thing right here with California Ave, more perpendicular. We will try to be, we'll be adding some green areas, some landscaping along the corridor. The other thing, there'll be lighting, decorative lighting throughout the whole corridor. Just about every intersection has some decorative lighting. So you'll see sidewalks improved upon, you'll see lighting, you'll see green areas. We've added a little more parking here on 3rd Street because when they do take away our parking along the FEC right-of-way, we will lose a number of spaces. One of the things we have done over the period of time since we last saw you is we've actually gone into the neighborhood and see if there's any places we can make up those spaces by restriping some of these areas. So we have a program that can almost get back to the same amount of spaces that are out there today once we get, if we do, not intend, but if, for example, FEC says no, we have to get rid of those parking spaces. Again, most of the improvements are pretty much in the same general location that they are today. The traveling public will still have two-way traffic on these roads. When we come to Joan Jefferson Way, we will probably make some adjustments here so that the vehicles come into this more perpendicular way into the intersection. We've had some requests to consider some flashing signs that depict when trains are coming across this intersection. Some of those improvements we plan on putting into the final design. This is really just to give you an idea of what the corridor could look like. At the bottom is the proposed improvements. What you see out there today, this is the old Creative Auto site. The gentleman that has purchased that has come up with a plan for an improvement to this building, some outdoor seating and so forth, and some landscaping. So we put that into a landscape rendering. You can see the pavers proposed here. Pretty much this area on the left side here of pavers is actually southbound. The area here is northbound. We will probably just leave the asphalt that's out there in the parking spaces that potentially could be removed, okay, which is on the right side here along the FEC Railroad. You can see sidewalks, you can see some trees being added and so forth, and you can see the street lights. A major improvement, if you go out there today, you'll see there's ponding of water. We plan on also providing underground storage or exfiltration pipe with inlets and so forth to provide drainage for this corridor. So there'll be some improvements on the drainage in here also. Having said that, I would entertain any questions.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about this confusion corner
Okay.
design. This is something Commissioner Smith reached out to Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to have them work with Michael Walwork, who designed the Jensen Beach roundabout in their downtown. And this is the proposal that I just received last week. And this still needs further modification. This has not gone to any outreach meetings, public meetings. The board, my boards haven't seen any of this preliminary design yet. So we think that we are a little bit far along with the Dixie Highway Improvements Project. That we could easily, if this were to move forward, we could easily just modify the perimeter of the Dixie Highway Improvements Project and still be able to achieve what we want to achieve with the Dixie Highway, and then work on this as I get direction from my board. Maybe Commissioner Smith might want to speak a little bit more on this design.
Great. Well, thank you. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
And that's just new to me, so I'd like to hear about that first. Maybe I could incorporate some of my.
So last time we talked about this, there was a lot of conversation, certainly about Dixie Highway and what was being proposed as a one-way link. And I think putting it back to two-way was probably the right thing to do. But there's also, I personally think, because I'm in this intersection at least 5-6 times a day. My wife's office is 2 blocks from the roundabout here. And I watch people do the craziest things known to mankind in the current configuration with all the little islands, the splitter islands. If you come north on Colorado into what, let's just use for what's on the screen now, into the roundabout, the other day I watched a truck come into the through lane because the backup trying to go up Dixie Highway to the north was probably 12, 15 cars long, and he decided, I'm not going to wait for that, so he flew into the middle lane, flew around the roundabout, because when you come out of the roundabout into Dixie, you get the right-of-way going on to Dixie North, which caused all sorts of issues because people were watching what he was doing, and it just got everybody even that much angrier. The 2 cars that can stack now in the little piece there at the end of Southwest Ocean Boulevard as you come into the roundabout, that's a constant battle as to who actually is going to give and who has the right-of-way going into Dixie Highway North or coming out of the roundabout. Likewise, coming south on Dixie, what we discovered when we were looking at this, and what I think Michael can still fix if there's interest to do this, today if you're coming south on Dixie into Confusion Corner, you cannot go to East Ocean Boulevard east. You have to go south on Colorado to do a U-turn or come on some other direction. From a very long time ago, and I think when the current configuration-ish was established, there was the conscious design idea to force everybody that wanted to go on East Ocean to go through downtown Stewart to be in front of the stores in downtown Stewart. I know, listening, remembering going to public meetings about that a very long time ago, that was by design, so that you couldn't come down Dixie and go down East Ocean, because that way you were going to avoid the shops and the stores as downtown was starting to grow and redevelop. I think everybody knows where downtown Stewart is now. I think everybody knows where every store is downtown, even to the extent that I do it and some other people do it. In the mornings when it's backed up coming down Flagler into the roundabout, you go down the drive line adjacent to the railroad because you get the right-of-way coming out of that going into the roundabout to go down to Colorado. There's just all sorts of peculiar little things that happen because of the existence of what is there today. So as Michael has this drawn, I'd say the only real issue relative to if we were to achieve something better than exists today would be to reconfigure the island on the left-hand side going on to Southwest Ocean to allow that movement to go to East Ocean if somebody wanted to, or to go south onto Colorado. The other thing I question in the whole scheme of this whole project of beautifying this section of Dixie,
Pinal and I met last week and we talked about this, and my sense of all of this is it's almost like we applied for the money to get a project to get something done on the west side of the railroad tracks. All well and good. There's nothing wrong with that concept, other than do we really achieve what it is you'd want to try to achieve long-term? And my argument would be we're still not getting on-street parking on the west side of Dixie because we don't have the right-of-way. There's a question whether we lose or we don't lose the parking on the east side, which I think Pinal is 28 spaces, correct? On the east side? 28? The church certainly has been under contract, at least that I know of, twice in the last couple of years. Chances are at some point in the future that property is going to redevelop. I think they've already acquired or are in the process of acquiring property out on Canner. And so then you have the couple commercial buildings that are on Dixie Highway today that have at least communicated in the past that there is interest in selling at some point for the right amount of money, clearly. But that isn't going to happen yet. And so my suggestion, at least for everybody to think about, is that the plan should be designed about what you want it, the final cut through or cut line to be actually going through Dixie Highway. Southwest Ocean, you have all of the right-of-way, you have on-street parking on both sides, but it could certainly use a facelift, and it could certainly use a treatment and an application of that treatment like is being proposed for Dixie, that could really make it a great-looking street and would help it to redevelop someday into a destination street, very much like what happened to Colorado 10 years ago when the city decided to completely redevelop the cross-section of all of Colorado going out to US 1. And I can share with you that having my wife's office on that section of Colorado, it is an entirely different street. It behaves differently. People come there. It's a very active place to go now, where it wasn't 15 years ago. And there was a lot of criticism of the city back then when we took out 2 lanes of through-lane traffic off of Colorado, that it was going to shut it all down and it was going to make it difficult, and it did just the opposite. It's made it flourish and become a great little component of Stewart. So those are my comments and thoughts relative to what the city is offering. I think I would step back again, like a couple feet back. I think I would really focus on Southwest Ocean Boulevard, which is the off of US 1. And Pinal, there was another whole presentation done for this area. Do you have that with you?
Don't have it with me. We did a triangle district master plan. Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council put that together to really, make recommendations how we can improve this area. And Ocean Boulevard is one of the recommended street to do a complete street project. Just because we didn't know with the church and, what will come there in the future, we thought Dixie Highway would be a priority just because we already have existing businesses. And it's a little bit easier to achieve this at this time versus Ocean Boulevard, which is going to take, with the redevelopment of that large tract of land, church site, anything is possible there, right? So the access points will be different. We want to also discuss with them maybe giving right-of-way dedication to the city on perhaps one of the streets, so that way we can widen the right-of-way to put on-street parking and a wider sidewalk. So there's a lot of moving parts with the Ocean Boulevard, so that's why we thought this was a better.
Right, and the only thing I would offer, I agree with Pinal that the north-south cut-through streets, the ones that are one-way, could go back to two-way. You could get on-street parking on both. Whatever's going to happen with the church, it's clearly going to be a lot of conversation because there's 2 streets that bisect the property. My recommendation is that you never shut off those streets, no matter what they want to build there, whoever wants to. But the goal should really be to try to achieve on-street parking on all the streets and two-way traffic back so that all the interconnectivity comes back to that triangle. And then how it interfaces with US 1, there's some really interesting concepts out on US 1. There was a bridge design that right there by the old, there was an electric boat rental or purchasing place there on the creek. There's actually a proposal to elevate that bridge to like a little bit of a humpback bridge on US 1 that would give the properties on the south side of US 1, if you will, underneath that creek, more boating access that they'd be able to come and go. But it also provides another significant entranceway into downtown Stewart as a gateway, if you will, project. When I talked to Beth about this, it's not that we haven't swapped out projects and done this kind of thing before. We did it with Sewell's Point, where we put it off for a year and swapped out the project to do another project. Beth, do you want to explain what that looks like?
Yeah, because of the, I think the timing with Sewell's Point, there were a lot of things that were happening in that area, and there was TAP funding involved. I think Joe Capra worked on that project as well. There was a resurfacing of East Ocean Boulevard, A1A, at the same time that within a year or so of the TAP project with the crosswalks, and also the town was looking at doing some street lighting. So I think that we discussed with FDOT changing some, switching TAP projects, because when an application is awarded, when the local government is awarded the money, that money is actually available 3 years out from the following fiscal year. And so because of that, the local governments, the county and the town were able to switch the TAP projects out. I think that's what you're referring to.
Anyway, just some ideas for everybody to consider. Commissioner Heatherington. No, I'm done. I'm all set.
While you were on that, Beth, that's why I was clicking my light, because we do have at least one new member. Can you give the definition of a TAP project?
Sure.
And what the mission and what that qualifies and how that works?
Sure. A TAP project is a Transportation Alternatives Program project, and that's a federal funding source. Primarily, it funds bicycle and pedestrian improvements. Local governments make the application. They come through the MPO process to be able to be prioritized. Now, Martin County is in a little unique situation where we're a small county with a small population, so we don't get that many funds. And so usually there's one application that comes through every year, so that's the priority. Other MPOs that have a larger project area that include a lot more population, like Broward, they may have 30 or 40 TAP applications in 1 year. And so when it goes through the MPO process, they actually prioritize those applications. And they're recurring. I think once projects usually get on the list, they stay on the list. So I don't know if that's helpful. So the MPO is their role in this is obviously to give input on the project, but also to prioritize it for that specific fiscal year. I know the county kind of went back and forth for several years, like the county would make an application, then the city would make an application. Because it is federal funding, it does require local area program or LAP requirements. That has to be done in accordance to LAP requirements, and the city has taken it upon themselves that you all are LAP certified for project-specific projects, whereas the county is an agency that's the actual agency is LAP certified. So when they apply, they can move forward with projects without having to do that individual certification every time.
I just interrupt for on that same vein. So LAP certified, in the past, the county has done the LAP projects for the city because they didn't have a LAP certified engineer on staff. And Panal, I think you showed me the other day, you're in the process of getting one or having one certified?
Correct. Yeah, we are in the process of being certified, and the people that are involved have already completed some of the certifications.
So within the year or so, you'll be able to
We
do
have to
your
have
own.
it completed by a certain point. Kevin is here. What time do we have to have it completed by?
The kickoff is in January. Have all the information and all that.
He's leading the TAP certification on behalf of the city. He's with Public Works Department.
Good morning.
Utilities.
No, we have,
Can you speak into the mic too,
just give me a second.
And your name for the record.
and your name for the record when we get there?
Kevin Smith, City of Stewart. Utilities. Yeah, the project, we have project kickoff January 29th. So we have to have all our certifications into the DOT so that we can move on to the next step, which is prepares project-specific lab certification, which is 130, and then DOT environmental preliminary field review is the 130-25. So we're trying to get all this information together, and then we'll sit down with DOT, and we should be ready to roll. So that's if the MPO puts this through or approves.
But you'll be hiring, or you've hired an individual to be that certified engineer for the city? Because that's always been my understanding, that that's why we've done it for the city.
What it is there's a team, like myself, I'm responsible charge. There'll be some other individuals. We had a grant administrator. We had procurement person, specialist, but we're obviously in the process of looking for some new people. We don't have them right now, but we will have somebody in those capacities. And then we have Joe Capra. He's going to be assisting us with this project as well. So his team, Capra Engineering, will assist us with that.
George Zama, I don't know if this is.
Your mic's not on, I don't think, George. George?
You can't turn it on, can you? Maybe.
I don't know. Can you still not?
Can you use the other
That one. There you go.
I'll use this one. Thank you,
That's
Commissioner.
better. Thank you.
George Zama, Martin County Public Works Deputy Director. So Martin County is LAP certified as an agency, the only agency in the county. There was an agreement in the past that has now sunsetted for the county to sponsor the city. The city and the other municipalities, so Indiantown as well, can obtain project-specific LAP certification. So I'm not sure if that's the process that the city is going.
That's the process we're doing.
Okay, so in lieu of the city obtaining an agency LAP certification.
They can't. The cities cannot obtain
So-
an agency.
So municipalities, thank you, Beth, municipalities can be a certified agency, so that every project that they submit for, they have to do a specific LAP certification. So sounds like they're going through that process, and
We had, you have to take all these training courses and stuff to get to that certification, which is part of it. Panal and myself and a couple of other individuals have taken the courses that are required of them. So we're trying to get to that finalizing. I got to finalize some Title VI document. I got to make some adjustments there on that, our Title VI, documentation. And then the state just asked for something new. It was a human trafficking affidavit, so we're going to have to create that. I already sent that to our legal department. And so that's trying to get all this information compiled, and we should be, we're right on track for the most part. Like I said, we have the project kickoff on the 29th, January 29th, 2025. And then this process keeps going on. So it looks like the project would probably be sometime in 26, 27 fiscal year. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think that helps at least people understand where we are and what's going on.
It's definitely a new process. So.
Susan, I will come back to you as soon as Commissioner Heatherington is done.
Okay, so I thought that TAP explanation was important because we only get Martin County gets one allocation of TAP funds per year, and this MPO body prioritizes one project a year. So it's important that it meets that mission of what we're trying to accomplish. And I would like to say on this, I think that going back to the community and getting input, you did a nice job, and we appreciate you doing that. Can you go back, because I have a black and white copy, that slide, the conceptual plan? No, wait, one more. Oh, that's it, okay. So on 3rd Street, The existing directional traffic, it's two-way yield. Is that correct?
Currently it's two ways. We are proposing one way right now.
So this,
just
this
for that
small
segment.
section of Third Street, so if you're coming down Dixie, you would push that down Third Street. Now, I drove this the other day, so I walk it all the time, and pretty much I'd rather do anything not to drive the section because of this one-way, and it's a maze. But, so you're gonna pick up parking there going on Third Street, but you're also gonna push more traffic down, and they will go then one way down California, right, to West Ocean.
Correct.
And as you go down one way down California, if you ever have tried to get out in a car, driven down California, and get out on West Ocean safely in a vehicle, it is very, very, very difficult and a dangerous intersection. You cannot, there's zero sight distance, whether you're turning towards the Confusion Corner or turning towards US 1. There are vehicles parked in front of the church, I guess the diagonal parking, and then there are some that are in front of the field, which are parallel parking. There's not often a lot of people parked in front of the field. Many times there's people parked in front of the church. It's almost impossible to get out of that intersection safely in a vehicle. So I would recommend, and we talked about this, Pinal, thank you for asking, calling last week, that I would recommend some kind of safety improvements, whether it be this TAP project or some other. And I'm hesitant about the Third Street one way. I know it picks up some parking spots for you all, but it creates, again, some of the conditions that Commissioner Smith was explaining. I like some of your ideas, Commissioner Smith, for the roundabout. They certainly would not, I don't think, TAP projects are about maybe $500,000 worth of funding. You'd have to, but I do like the idea of planning for the future of how to incorporate some of those ideas. But I'm somewhat concerned about the one-way on Third Street because it pushes more traffic down California, and that intersection coming out of California on West Ocean is just such an unsafe intersection. I'd rather see improvements done there before you start pushing more traffic down California one way. Otherwise, I appreciate very much how you've really talked to the community and gotten their input on this.
We'll definitely we'll look at that Third Street and maybe change it to two-way. We don't have a problem with that.
The Regional Planning Council did design some speed tables along Southwest Ocean. And you need to see their presentation. It's really nice in terms of what that could look like in the future. And again, depending upon what happens with the church and how that interfaces with Ocean and Third Street and California all, I think you should decide sooner than later what you want the final product to look like. So no matter what anybody comes forward, you've got the footprint in place to say, no, this is what we're doing. Whatever you want to do there, that's fine, but you've got to conform to what the master plan was for the whole triangle, I think. Susan? Sorry.
Thank you. It's really good conversation, and what I have is kind of just a fluff. I find this very aesthetically pleasing, and I'm just wondering the cost comparison between the pavers and using asphalt. And Joe could probably speak to that. Is there a cost comparison? Is it comparable? Is one, more?
Pavers are going to be more expensive.
Okay.
We are going to get some drainage benefit out of it. So as you mentioned, the cost of this is originally proposed at about $1 million, half and 50% coming from the grant, 50% coming from the city. That added about another $200,000 to put the pavers in. Okay. So I just want you to know it does get more expensive. It's a little more attractive. I think some of the things we were trying to accomplish here, and everybody knows here on these boards, this is a balance, okay? We're trying to save as much parking as we can. We tried to look at the way origin, destination, where are people going to and what they're going to cut through. And again, if so everybody knows, I designed Confusion Corner the way it is, but I don't tell people I designed it, I tell them the community designed it. It took us 3 years to do it, okay? We have 3 years before this change happens, okay? So that's the good news, right? We have time, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of reasons for the way it's set up the way it is, and Doug brought up a bunch of them, okay? And I'm just telling you that this is not going to be a cheap change, just to be honest with you. And I'd love to design it for you. And Walter, it does a great job. We designed several roundabouts with him. He's probably forgot more than I've ever known about roundabouts. He's very knowledgeable about them. But there's going to be, as he brought up, you will lose some movement by putting West Ocean in here. You have a limited amount of right-of-way, okay? That's a problem. You don't have the right-of-way to do a lot of things and spread things out. You need a lot of space there, so, and what was put in there by the community is we want the ability to still go through the intersection when the train is through it. And that's why you see some widened areas on one side or the other. Again, I think this is a great program, and I don't disagree with bringing West Ocean Boulevard into the mix and so forth. It's just that there's going to be, something's going to have to give. And I just want everybody to understand, it's all balance, okay? Parking, we are trying to make sure we made it attractive for the businesses to come across the track, which I think we've done that. You're absolutely right. There's only about 3 or 4 businesses there, but one of them will not change. They do not want anything movement. So we maintained all the driveway entrances that they have. Now, we may make them smaller because they don't need the wide areas that they have, but that's the whole plan here. So we can make the changes as been proposed on Confusion Corner. Again, people are going to have to realize some of the movements are they're not going to be like you see them on that map. They just don't work. And don't get me wrong, there's other things that can be done, but that's going to be expensive. So.
Also regarding the pavers, we are considering, depending on the cost, just looking at intersections similar to what we have on Ocean Boulevard in Colorado, so it's more consistent with what we already have in downtown.
Commissioner Reed, were you done, Susan? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, I'm done. That was it.
Yes, I was looking at the proposed typical section, and I see where we're taking a foot from each road, and we're adding a foot to on-street parking. Where was the other foot going? Because I noticed like the FEC fence moved as well in the diagram, so I don't know if they were moving that fence.
No, the fence would still remain.
Yeah, is it curbs, the foot?
There's 2 foot of our road in their right of way. So we're just going to be moving that road out of their right of way. That's why we're reducing it to 10-foot travel lane. Is that what you're asking?
Well, no, if you took the 2 foot away, we're adding 1 foot to the parking. Where is the other foot? Is that in the curbs, or is it just?
Yes,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
there's 6-inch curbs, so you can do either side. And to be honest with you, we can make some adjustments to that. Sometimes we put in valet curves, but what's out there was to try to keep the 6-inch curb, 6-inch high, so people would stay away from the pedestrian, protect the pedestrian.
Yeah, because I noticed some, it's like 2 inches here, 4 inches there. And I agree with Commissioner Hetherington on these roads. I think most of these roads coming out of them are dangerous in themselves, especially Albany, because you can't see at all with the 0-foot setbacks. I typically go to Akron just because it's a 4-way, so I think that's the safest intersection to leave there.
Can I just point out something? One of the things we're doing, and you can see it in this intersection here, maybe not as clear, but where Camden and West Ocean Boulevard is we're actually moving the crosswalks into the road so that you can actually see around the building and see around some of that. So those crosswalks are actually in the road.
If you're in a vehicle?
Yeah, if you're in a vehicle and you come from, in this case, this one, if you come from south to north or north
From Camden there, yeah.
Yeah, you go out into the intersection more, and that's where the crosswalks are. And we put these bulb outs out there.
So you're jetted out then a little bit to where you can get that line of sight?
So that was the intention, and I know we never finished the one on California because the actual church didn't want that changed. So that's why we haven't done anything with that. They kind of use some of these areas for different events, and they like to park different ways, and so we just basically stayed away from it. So.
Okay. No, I like that because I come out of these roads a lot, and yeah, you can't see that line of sight, so it's tough. So, I think that's it.
Commissioner Heatherington?
I think that, Chris, is that you?
Oh, yes, it was me again, George Zama. I just wanted to reinforce that, the agencies submit for these grants and are approved by by the board ultimately for DOT to include in their work program. Once the scope is submitted, DOT, there is a little bit of flexibility, but once your project limits are established, it is greatly recommended to stick to the original scope. I think going back and reanalyzing the traffic flow was a good process, and overall, I think it's a great project. The other thing I wanted to mention is, the approach moving forward. It would be good to know for all the agencies, the MPO board's expectations for these types of projects. As Commissioner Heatherington mentioned, we only get about $450,000 of allocation. The county's approach for these types of projects has always been the greatest cost benefit has been to add pedestrian or bicycle facilities like sidewalk projects. That doesn't say that this project doesn't qualify by any means for all the scope that's been added, because from what I understand, historical, cultural, environmental, which includes vegetative management for projects, do qualify. So, but moving forward, for the county can scope out certain projects for TA grants. It would be good to have an understanding from the board of what those expectations are for the types of projects that they would like to see moving forward.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, there was one other thing that was at the workshop that they talked about. It was crossing over from Flagler to Joan Jefferson. So when you're crossing over the railroad tracks, they come down so fast that you're almost tempted to get stuck on the railroad tracks because of all the traffic going north and south, or northbound on Dixie to get into Jensen. So when they're stacked up, they're just blazing through there, and you can get stuck on the railroad tracks. I know they had mentioned maybe adding a signalized light at that intersection for the traffic going northbound that's going through the roundabout to hold traffic there so cars could clear out from Flagler so they're not stuck on the tracks.
Well, that adds another conversation coming in on Joan Jefferson off of the bridge. The traffic coming south out of Jensen on Dixie into Sailfish Circle completely controls the traffic movement of that roundabout. And that stacks up the traffic out onto US 1. It stacks up the drive lane down the Roosevelt Bridge. It's why there's so many accidents at that intersection out at US 1 and Joan Jefferson, because people are racing to try to get into the queue, but you can't because they're stopped coming into the roundabout because there's not a stop sign entering the roundabout. There's a yield, but not a stop coming down Dixie into that roundabout. It's a cluster mess. It's awful. And that then backs up what ends up happening going south on Dixie Highway or going into downtown Stewart, because everybody's trying to reposition themselves as to how do you get from A to B. Anyway, I just think there's a lot of little nuanced changes or things that you have the opportunity with a project like this or modifications to fix some of the things that have long, maybe for a while, been somewhat problematic. I have a staff dais light on. Is that, Beth, that you? No?
Like Commissioner Reed mentioned, we are looking at doing a light at
that's
that
George.
intersection of Joan Jefferson and Dixie, and it is kind of looked at separately through the Public Works Department. I feel like this is the base of the project, and there's other things happening that will kind of tie in together.
I always think of these things, if you don't talk about it now and get it on the record in conversation, it'll just kind of go away. I mean, I would very much hope, and I won't be here after this to influence a conversation one way or the other, but I hope you seriously all consider dealing with Confusion Corner and how all that interaction happens, whether it's Michael's Roundabout or something else. Because of 2 lanes of railroad and because there are people who stop in the railroad tracks or because you can't move because those two cars get locked into that little space in between Colorado and Dixie, it just forces people to do some really stupid things. And the same thing up at the other end. So hopefully you'll do something with it. Beth, what do you need for recommendation?
Staff would recommend approval of the city's application with the understanding that there'll be future discussions for the improvement of the transportation network in the downtown Stewart. Is that everyone?
You okay with that, Manal? Okay, so unless there's any further discussion, I'm sorry. George? Oh.
I just wanted to echo Commissioner Hetherington's point about having that be two-way, Pinal, just looking at it here. And, it sounds like we're already at consensus, but not necessarily including West Ocean into here, keeping this the scope that it is, and then, again, Confusion Corner in the future. That was all.
Okay.
So if there is a motion, just to include that it's two-way if we need to, or if you got that under control.
Yeah, I'll take care of it, but you can make that a motion if you
Well,
would like.
can we, just for clarity, when you say two-way, is that Third or is that Dixie or
On
both?
Third Street,
Okay. And that Dixie stay two?
yes, two-way. That would make everything two-way effectively.
We're in agreement with that.
I would also, just for historical purposes, and I don't know where in the city records you might ever find it, but when the buildings were torn down in the other triangle where the surface parking lot is, for those of you who are old enough to remember what that looked like before it was torn down, there were some conceptual drawings done of that whole corner that had liner buildings and had a parking garage in the middle of it. It was fantastic looking. The brick building that was there that got torn down, it kind of emulated the original historical look. You might want to do some digging and find out what that is, because if FEC does take your 28 parking spaces, you've got 60-some plus or minus parking spaces in the surface parking today. You could easily pick up 120 parking spaces in that property if that design or some other design were to come forward. And also, too, it would be fantastic if Akron could become two-way again from Confusion Corner, or not Confusion, but from Sailfish Circle south. Just as another component of how do you improve what's there. So did you make a motion, Chris, on those, accepting staff's recommendation with the addition of two-way on Third and
Yes.
Dixie?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Collins, seconded by Commissioner Hetherington. Anybody from the public wish to weigh in on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. Any further discussion on the board? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Pinal, thank you very much for all your work. Okay, Beth, item 8C, Cove Road widening PD&E study.
Yes, FDOT is here with their consultant to give you all an update on this study. They've done quite a bit of public outreach since the last time they presented, and I will turn it over to FDOT to introduce this project.
Hi, good morning. Vanita Saini with Florida Department of Transportation. I'm the PD&E project manager for Cove Road. And I have also David Dangle, who is the FDOT consultant PD&E PM from Ardura. And what we're here today is give you an update of Cove Road and really focus this presentation on how the alternatives that we presented previously when we were here, how they're developing into a preferred alternative, and it's really predominantly based on the public input we received since the alternatives workshop. And then once we, develop the preferred alternative, we're going to take it to a public hearing sometime next year in the spring. And then at that time, the public will have another opportunity to comment on that preferred alternative before that becomes the concept design that we will take and carry into final design. So with that, I'll just let David go over the updates.
Morning. Thanks, Vanita. Good morning.
And again, your name for the record.
My name is David Dangle with Ardura Group. I'll just give a little bit of a background. I know we've presented to you before, but the project that we're looking at is Cove Road from Cantor Highway over to US 1. It's about 3.2 miles in length. The existing road from Canner over to Avalon, which is about 3/4 of the project, is a 2-lane rural road. It widens out for left turn lanes in some areas. It has swale drainage and sidewalks along both sides of the road. And we've got plenty of right-of-way. It was really intended to be widened to 4 lanes through this section. The last quarter of the project from Avalon over to US 1 is really where we have our constrained right-of-way. We're down to about 90 feet of right-of-way, so getting a 4-lane road in here has been quite a challenge. You can see on the left side is the north side of the road. That's the Hibiscus Park neighborhood. They back up to Cove Road. On the south side, we've got the Montego Cove condominiums. It's a 55 and older condominium development, and we've also got some large transmission poles that come into the right-of-way in that area as well. So as far as public involvement goes, we had a kickoff public meeting in March of 2023. We held our alternatives public workshop in May of this year. We presented to you all prior to that meeting and told you we would come back and give you an update of what happened. We've had a lot of things that have gone on since then, so that's why it's taken us a little bit longer to get back to you. We've had small group meetings with some of the neighborhoods, the South Fork, HOA, and the other developments at the west end of the project. The Montego Cove board we met with as well. As Vanita said, we've got the public hearing tentatively scheduled for early 2025, and this is the project website, which we add information as it becomes available. So this is what we presented at the public meeting. Essentially, we had 2 options in the first segment. The first one, 1A, had on-road bicycle lanes and a shared use path in the south and a sidewalk on the north side of the road, a 4-lane divided roadway. Alternative B is the same essential 4-lane divided roadway. However, we removed the on-road bicycle lanes and have shared use paths on both sides of the road. And that seemed to have a lot of support from the board previously. In the second segment, we looked at a couple different options that included various combinations of on-road bike lanes, sidewalks, and shared use paths. 2C is the one that kind of mimics the 1B with the shared use paths on both sides. It does require a little bit, or it did require a little bit more right-of-way than alternative 2D, which we really looked to see how much we could reduce the right-of-way footprint, pulling the sidewalk up to the back of curb on the north side of the road and some other things. So that's what we presented to the public to get their input.
Can you go back just for that?
How do I go back, Ricardo?
Mouse wheel?
So the difference between 2D and 2C is that little pull-out, fly-out.
Sidewalks next to the curb.
Bike lane.
Yeah, the 2C does not have any on-road bike lanes.
2D has a bike lane.
does,
Got it.
And it's got the sidewalk on the north
Right.
side. Essentially, we can't use a sidewalk to provide both bicycle and pedestrian. So if we have a sidewalk, then we have to have a separate bicycle lane, where a shared use path is wider and it accommodates both.
Thank you. I didn't see the nuance. That's all. Thank you.
So we did receive a lot of different comments related to noise, people asking for traffic signals at their neighborhood entrances, some different specific things about U-turns. We did get support for the roundabout that we had shown at the Alt Avenue intersection, people asking for trees and street lighting. But we did get support from the public for the 2 options that had the shared use paths as opposed to the bike lane options.
So that's 1B and 2C.
Yes, sir. Some of the concerns raised were typical for where we're going from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane divided road, where people currently can go out and go left from their sidewalk or their driveway, and now they've got a median in front, and so they're going to have to go right and do a U-turn to come back. So that was not unexpected. We did have a few comments related to flooding, again, noise, and some other pedestrian-related comments. So there were really 2 areas that we focused on after the alternatives meeting based on the input we received from the public. The first is the area at Gaines Avenue. I'll show you some graphics here in a minute, where we had a lot of input from the residents in that area related to vehicles towing boats and horse trailers and how they access this area. And then the other area was down at Montego Cove with some concerns about access to and from their development. So touch on that. So as we were kind of completing these revisions that we were going to go back to these neighborhoods and talk about, DOT conducted a value engineering study, and it's a week-long study where they look at our preferred alternative at the time to see if they can come up with some cost savings ideas or value-added ideas to improve the concept. So during that study, the midweek meeting on a Wednesday, we knew what they were going to propose, and that Wednesday night was when we had scheduled our first meeting with the South Fork residents. So we were able to say, this is what we proposed to them. The value engineering came up with another option, so we were able to get input on both of those options at that meeting. And then the next night, we met with the Montego Cove folks. But there were some minor things that came out of the value engineering related to bulb outs for U-turns, extending some turn lanes, the revisions, I guess, again, that I just mentioned at Gaines and Montego Cove, and then also a new pond site that they recommended we look at. So after all of that, we do have what we are saying is our preferred option. And again, it's alternative 1B with the shared use paths on both sides of the road. We can generally fit, I know this is really hard to see, we can generally fit within the existing right-of-way through this segment. We do have the roundabout proposed at Trey Bell, kind of closer to the west end of the project, and then the Alt Avenue intersection. And then there's other signalized intersections that are existing that we would maintain. So this is the existing condition at Gaines Avenue. Right now, when you come off of Canner, you can only turn right and go south on Gaines Avenue. It's a one-way connection at Cove. And in order to, this Gaines Avenue extension was constructed by the county because they wanted to move this full access away from Canner Highway. And so this is a two-way road. We got a lot of input from the public about concern for trucks with trailers kind of making this sharp curve and conflicting with other cars that are sitting there waiting to leave. So this is really the one area that I mentioned. The value engineering concept proposed to close this connection of Gaines Avenue altogether and force everybody down to this one location. Well, the residents didn't like that at all when we met with them. So this is the concept that we're moving forward with, that we showed to the neighborhoods down here that they liked. It's really converting Gaines Avenue back to a two-way connection at Cove Road, so they can go in and out of this location. And then since we are proposing to close this full opening at the Gaines Avenue extension, it's providing a westbound directional, and this would be a one-way road that we will make this pavement a little bit wider to accommodate. So they like this idea.
How do you go west out of Gaines onto Cove?
What we're proposing is a roundabout at Trey Bell, and so it's just off of this to the right, and so that would allow for people to come down with trailers and do a U-turn to go back to Canner. So
can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Question? Can you go back to the other screen? Why not? And is it because of the stacking that you have, but why not do that roundabout in there? Or
that was a concern. It was having the two-way traffic on this area through this tight curve, but there was a concern with this potentially stacking back that could in the future create some issues with the roundabout operating.
it just seems so counterproductive, though, to cut off Gaines from not being able to go out to Canner.
Well, essentially today, well, yeah, at this location, you're right. It's a couple hundred feet. They would have to go farther to the east to do the U-turn the other benefit of the roundabout at Trey Bell is we got a lot of concern and input from people saying that people are coming off of Canner and they're just flying. One reason is there's 2 lanes here and they're trying to get down to the 1 lane, so they're trying to beat each other to the point, which we wouldn't have. But again, this is seen as kind of a traffic calming improvement as much as anything.
Mr. Hurd?
Any other questions on this area?
Yeah, I'm confused. So we're talking about Gaines. Are the people on Gaines going to be prohibited from turning west?
Yes.
Correct.
So they're instead going to go on Cove Road east to the roundabout in order to go west?
Right.
Okay. That's okay.
No. I think if I lived down on Gaines, I'd be pissed.
I don't know. I'm a fan of roundabouts.
We did get a lot of positive feedback. I think that the boat trailers and the horse trailers, people really like the idea of being able to do something like that.
Yeah, I just would do it further west, that's all. I think it's worth, considering that if Gaines stayed the two-way traffic down to where the bulb out there is in front of Trey Bell, that you do the roundabout there. Just to look at it to see what does it really do to hurt anything, versus it gives the Gaines people, yeah, a couple 100 feet less, you got to go to the east to go west. Because right now, you can go west on the current configuration where it is, but anyway, it's just
How many houses down Gaines Avenue?
a lot.
Quite
Lots, a lot,
Quite a few.
It's a whole mobile park,
Couple of-
mobile home park community down there.
Lot.
Anything else on this?
Not unless you all have any other questions on that.
But I mean, any other segments you were gonna highlight or no?
Yes, yeah, I was just going to quickly touch on Alt Avenue. We've got the roundabout proposed as well, that we got a lot of positive feedback at the public meeting. And then in segment 2, this is really the tight area. So what we essentially did was took the 2C option with the shared use paths and kind of converted it to the 2D, which is the minimized. So we met, we've got some design variations that are going to be approved because this is a really short constrained section. We've got an 8-foot shared use path. This is the lowest you can go as far as the width of the shared use path, pulled it up to the back of curb. We are currently working on the noise study, but we anticipate a noise wall will be warranted along the back of Hibiscus Park. So we're going to use that as a kind of a dual purpose, a retaining wall and a noise wall to stay out of the right of way. We've got a minimized median down to 15.5 feet in this one area. And again, there was areas we may pull this shared use path up to the back of curb, but we can essentially fit this between Montego Cove and Hibiscus Park with no right-of-way impacts for that segment.
So just, so curious, you said that the median, what's the width of the other cross-section median?
22.5 feet is a standard median width.
So you've got, no, on the west section, on the 1B cross-section. So you got 4 foot on the south side between your shared path and the green dotted line, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You got 4 feet there. You've got 6 feet where your light poles are, so you got 10 feet. That if you mimicked the north side and the sidewalk were pulled up to the edge of pavement, you could make your median wider if people wanted a wider median.
We could. We could. I mean, there's nothing to prevent that from happening. There's really, there's only one access point in this area for Montego Cove. So we felt that the limiting the median through this, several 100-foot section made sense.
There's 10 feet to work with if otherwise you wanted to design it differently.
There is, and this may be a little bit misleading. This is kind of a typical for this entire stretch. So you can see the 6 feet. There is areas where we're going to be pulling it up, so it's 0 to 6 feet. It kind of varies. So in order to get that all the way down to the 90 feet, we will have to pull that up to the back of curb. I'd have to go back and look at the 4 feet and see if that's still part of it. But yes, you could kind of swap some things around as far as that goes.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, I'm looking at the north side of this alternative, and it reminds me of US 1, which is just so unsafe. Why can't you separate on the north side the shared use path or sidewalk or whatever you're calling it from the travel lanes?
It's just an attempt to try to minimize this and stay out of having to acquire right-of-way. I think I would have to go back.
Why does the median have to be so big?
There's safety issues with, two-way traffic, and you have to have them separate.
And there aren't with pedestrians?
Well, there are, but we've got the curb there that, kind of helps in some cases. So 15.5 is really kind of the minimum. We had approached DOT early on in the project with having something like a 12-foot median, and they said that would not work. So we have looked at a lot of different options in there, and this is what we felt made the most sense and that DOT design staff also supported.
But to Sarah's point,
I'd almost rather not have a sidewalk.
and I was going the other way, but to Sarah's point, you've still got, give or take, 10 feet to play with from the south side. And so if the idea was, from Sarah's comment, if you put 4 feet if you took the 4 feet off the south side and moved that to the north side between the sidewalk and the right-of-way, you're mimicking almost what's on the south side. You get a little bit more space separating between the right-of-way and the sidewalk. If that's the preference, that's what I would do. Commissioner Collins?
Just to synthesize those 2 points, I agree. If you're going to do something with that 4 feet that's all the way to the right, it would be putting some space in between that left sidewalk and the street.
Okay.
To the greatest extent possible. And where you have 10 feet to play with, because I didn't really read it from 0 to 6 feet on the south side, but where you have 6 foot in there, you've got 10 feet to play with. Err on the side of the caution of the north side, adding it to the drive lane to the sidewalk versus the south side.
Okay, we can go back and.
Is that?
Yeah.
Chris?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. Stacy, sorry. Commissioner Heatherington.
This was for end of the discussion. You mentioned, and I've talked to some residents in the area that have flooding concerns and water, and so I know this is in the PD&E, so that the environmental side, I would hope that we're considering significant amount, much more drainage potential than our current Cove Road in this existing segment all the way down.
Yeah, there aren't really any ponds for the road right now. It's just roadside swales. This proposed improvement will include curb and gutter with piping to offsite ponds. So we've got several ponds identified.
Thank you.
Again, this is you can see a little bit here. This first part is kind of where we're that tight right of way. Once we get past the end of Montego Cove, they've got sidewalk access to this building that we need to get past. Then we are widening back out and having more of the offsets that we talked about through the last half of this. But again, I'll go back and look and work with our roadway designers and see what we can do there.
Hang on a second. Mr. Collins?
To Commissioner Heatherington's point, with drainage, of what's getting built there in terms of sidewalks and concrete, is any of that permeable? Is there any look at, because to me, if you're going to build anything new through here, making it as permeable as possible. I know you're talking about gutters and drainage, but just generally.
Yeah, there's nothing really permeable other than like the grassed areas, the median, but the shared use paths would either be asphalt or concrete sidewalks.
Is there any thought to do something like that where you can have more permeable?
I don't think typically those kind of things have been considered during the study. I don't know.
In this part of the county, I mean, that if you're going to have somewhere drain well.
The drainage design will meet the needs of the project. So in terms of drainage perspective, it's not constrained where we have to add permeability. We can accommodate all the drainage with the impervious, which David previously mentioned with the retention pond and the piping and the drainage structures.
Is there any thought to go beyond what is just the minimum? I know I'm beating this to death of drainage, where you could make it more permeable. Is that an option?
We can look at it in design to see what further options there are, but from the PD&E perspective, they have to demonstrate that, they meet all the needs. And they usually go through the worst case scenario, so putting permeability is, is adding on to what has already been identified, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Vanita. Just real quickly, Montego Cove, I mentioned, this is their community. They have one access point onto Cove. They raised concern with turning left out of the community onto Cove Road. So we are proposing a directional median opening here so that they will have to go out and go right, and then we've introduced a U-turn to where they can safely get into a lane, sit there and wait for traffic in the other direction, so they're only having to navigate one direction of traffic. Here's our schedule. You can see we're presenting to you today. We are working on the final documentation, and we'll take another look at the final concept. We'll be going to the public hearing early next year, and we'll present this to the public and get their input again before finalizing everything, and then having the project approved late spring, and then design is funded. So DOT will be advertising for the design phase for this coming up in the next few months. This is Vanita's contact information. If you have any other questions you can think of following the presentation. And then I would like to read the
Cove Road, right?
safety message. So this month is National Pedestrian Safety Month, reminding drivers and pedestrians that staying safe is a shared responsibility. In 2022, there were 10,000 pedestrian-related crashes, which is a 5% decrease from 2021 in Florida, and 765 fatalities, which was an 8% decrease from 2021. As daylight savings time comes to an end and it gets darker earlier, the risk for pedestrians increase. The vast majority of hit-and-run fatalities occur at night or during low-light hours. Drugs and alcohol can not only affect someone's ability to drive, but can also alter someone's ability to walk safely. Pedestrian safety is a shared responsibility between pedestrians and motorists. Our data shows a pretty equitable split between who is at fault in these types of crashes, which is why it is so important for both motorists and pedestrians alike to remain vigilant on the roadway and behind the wheel.
Sarah, do you have your light on?
Yeah, I do. So from Avalon East to US 1, there's going to be 4 lanes of traffic and occasionally turn lanes? And how many lanes are there going to be eastbound on Cove at the intersection of US 1?
Essentially the same that's out there right now.
Okay. And so also people who live in Hibiscus Park will only be able to turn right out of Hibiscus Park, turn west on Cove?
Out of Cable, which is kind of the easterly.
Okay.
But at Avalon, that's going to be a full median opening there. So they'll be able to go either direction there, a little farther away from US 1 and much safer.
And how much, Avalon has a lot of traffic, and how much stacking ability is there going to be eastbound on Cove Road, turning north onto Avalon?
I don't know the number, but the traffic analysis has considered that, and so there's plenty of room for a left turn lane to be as long as it needs to be.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public wish to comment on this item? We need a motion to approve the PD&E study update, I think with the additional comments of the 2C portion that would ask the consultants to review looking at the shifting as much of the green space, if you will, separating the north side sidewalk from the right-of-way.
Plus drainage alternatives.
Huh?
Plus drainage alternatives.
Plus drainage alternatives. Capacity.
Bird moves.
Heatherington will second it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Again, anybody from the public? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are past our 10:30 point. We need to take about a 10-minute recess for our closed captioning.
It's like it's flipped. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, we are back from our closed captioning break. We will take up item 8D, which is US 1 Congestion Management Public Outreach Study Program.
Yes, we have an update from Kimberly Horn, who is preparing the US 1 Congestion Management Study, and I will turn it over to the project manager, Stuart Robertson, to begin that presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair or Vice Chair, members of the Martin LPO Policy Board. My name is Stuart Robertson with Kimley Horn and Associates. We're here to give an update on the US 1 Congestion Management Study, along with my partners at Bonnie C. Landry and Associates. This is a study that has been going on since the beginning of this year. It's included some technical analysis and a lot of public engagement, and so we're going to cover those aspects of the project at this time. We are planning to finalize the study by the end of this year, so we wanted to come to you today with an informational item on the results of the study so far. So our background on this study is that it includes the section of US 1 from Southwest Joan Jefferson Way to the St. Lucie County line. This is approximately 5 miles in length. This section of US 1 is the busiest section of US 1 anywhere in Martin County. In fact, it's the busiest non-interstate roadway anywhere in Martin County, with 63,000 vehicle trips per day in its busiest segment. Almost 92% of these trips, or at least the work trips that happen on US 1, are drive-alone trips, so only about 8% multimodal. So we know we're dealing with a very an environment that's vehicular-oriented, and most trips are drive-alone trips. Also, it's important to point out, we know from prior studies that 24% of workers in Martin County, people who work in Martin County, reside in the city of Port St. Lucie. So from this, we can gather that there's a lot of commuting trips from St. Lucie County that occur on US 1. But there's a lot of local trips as well, a lot of commercial and institutional uses along US 1 that attract local trips as well. We're studying the transit conditions, both MARTI Route 1 as well as the St. Lucie County ART transit system operate along US 1. The highest ridership stops that we have identified are all near commercial centers. Britt Road, the Treasure Coast Mall, and the Walmart at Port St. Lucie are the highest ridership stops. So from our analysis, we have found that there are lots of large parking lots and large parcels. The commercial parcels are quite large along the corridor. And they're developed in a suburban way. So what this creates is a setting where we don't have a lot of grid street connectivity. Most of the trips are concentrated on the arterial roadways and the few streets and driveways that connect to the arterial roadways. There's also something of a lack of connectivity between the properties themselves. So many of the properties on the east side of the road don't connect to their adjacent properties. Many of the properties on the west side don't connect to their adjacent properties. So what this means is that more vehicle trips must use US 1 for even short trips. So if you're pulling out of one shopping center, you often have to pull onto US 1 for a very short amount of time to get over to the next shopping center. Sometimes that movement involves U-turns as well, which adds to the cues for left turning at signals along the roadway. The existing pedestrian network is somewhat limited. There are sidewalks that exist along the majority of the segment of US 1, and they tend to exist along the lining of the commercial parcels as well, but don't extend into the parcels themselves. And so this creates an environment that is somewhat non-walkable. For traffic data collection, we've conducted traffic counts along the roadway, as well as turning movement counts at signalized intersections along the roadway. We've also looked at travel speed and travel time runs. Generally speaking, the corridor during peak periods operates at an average speed between 20 and 30 miles per hour, and the PM peak period tends to be more congested than the AM peak period. You see this by the lower average speeds during the PM northbound in the PM southbound condition. And of all of the various peak periods, the northbound PM peak is the most congested at 21 miles per hour. However, the majority of the day, the corridor does operate at or above its 45 mile per hour posted speed. So we do have peak hour congestion happening. We have localized congestion happening at left turning lanes, especially at traffic signals. But what we've learned from our speed data, as well as a lot of the input that we've gathered from the public and from our committee presentations and presentations also to the City of Stewart Commission and to the Martin County Commission, that speeding and the perception of speeding and aggressive driving on the corridor is one of the things that people perceive to be the most dangerous part of driving or traveling along US 1. Another one of those issues that we have both observed as well as heard from the public is red light running. And we were actually able to quantify the red light running along the corridor and found that the intersection at Westmoreland Boulevard had the most red light runners. So that's a good segue to our congestion mitigation strategies section. We are developing strategies that are largely based on the public input that we have received, as well as the technical analysis that we have conducted. So in addition to the public workshops that Bonnie is going to discuss in more detail in a moment, as well as presentations to other elected official bodies, we've also had a project advisory committee made up of representatives of agencies along the corridor, as well as law enforcement representatives that has been guiding the work that we have conducted so far and have really provided a lot of input to these congestion mitigation strategies. So because of the aggressive driving that we have observed as well as heard about along the corridor, one of the strategies that we're recommending and developing is related to and building from the MPO's adopted Vision Zero plan. So the MPO's adopted Vision Zero plan includes strategies related to law enforcement, and we're going to be developing a strategy for US 1 to apply that Vision Zero concept to the effective engagement strategies for conducting along US 1. On the engineering side, one of the strategies that we're recommending is to work with local property owners to increase the amount of inter-property multimodal connectivity between businesses along the corridor. Recommending these near high-volume intersections where short trips on US 1 can really make a big difference in the amount of queues that are occurring, the length of the queues and the time it takes to get between two different intersections. So two of the examples include connecting the Treasure Coast Mall and Kohl's area to the Target on the north side of Britt Road. And also on the east side of US 1, also north of Britt Road, the parcels along the east side of the road could be better connected to improve people's ability to make short trips without getting out onto US 1. So really that area between Britt Road and up to Jensen Beach Boulevard is where we're concentrating this type of recommendation.
Stuart, can you go back just a second? You need to extend that green box from the Barnes & Noble mall to the next mall to the north.
Oh, yeah.
It is by far one of the silliest things. There's about a 5-foot separation between that and the Hobby Lobby Mall or the Old Service Merchandise Mall where Sonic is. Anyway, just as far as a study or as far as connections, that's probably as significant as any of those other connections are.
Yeah, we'll make sure that that's depicted in the final report for the project.
And also, too, I thought we talked about this last time, but where you have the mall, Treasure Coast Mall connection to Kohl's, there was and there's already sort of in place just to the very east of that blue circle, that interconnection, there's like pylons in the ground between the Treasure Coast Mall, Kohl's site, and
Panera.
Well, and back of Panera's,
Yeah.
all of that.
I used
But
to
there's,
loop through there.
but there's literally the it's not the perimeter road, but the the first right-hand turn you make off of US 1 into Target, behind the first liner building, that was originally, no, keep going, down south to, right there, keep going down, a little bit. No, okay, now go to the left, stop. Now go north. That right there was always anticipated to connect to Coles.
Keep going straight like that.
Straight up.
Yes.
Yep.
Then you'd be behind Coles.
And there's already this interesting look, I never knew there was this interesting little connection behind Comcast or AT&T, I forget which building it is out there, and Coles, that you can connect there. But between there and Target, that would be a huge reliever of movements going out to US 1 to go north. It's almost like how the Home Depot Mall down in Stewart, all the liner buildings out on US 1 are connected to the feeder road around Home Depot and that mall. Every single one of them.
Well, and if you think it, how people shop, they go to the mall, then they go to Kohl's, then they go to Target, you work your way down. So if you could get from the mall to Target, that would be a good.
And then when you're done there, you can go to Total Wine and get a bottle of wine
Yeah.
and cool out from all the stress.
Yeah, we'll make sure that the final report, as well as the version of this graphic that goes into the final report, includes those multiple options for potentially making that connection. And I'll also want to look in to make sure that, that there's not a separate parcel in between the connection in the drive aisle of the parking lot of Target up to the back of Kohl's. But definitely, this being a planning study, there will have to be some additional more detailed design work that would have to be.
Yeah, it's great that we're talking about it, and it's great that it's like on a study somewhere. But if you really want to improve the congestion on US 1 up there, those interconnections are absolutely imperative.
And we'll also extend the green box on the east side of US 1 up to the Hobby Lobby Shopping Center.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So our second bucket of improvements are related to multimodal safety. One recommendation that we are developing is a short-term recommendation that's related to the bicycle lane on US 1, the green bicycle lane, or sometimes green bicycle lane. And that would be to work with FDOT to request that they install auditory and vibratory edge line striping. This would be a different type of 6-inch thermoplastic marking between the bicycle lane and, between the buffer of the bicycle lane and the motor vehicle travel lane. This would alert motorists that are drifting out of the designated travel lane toward the buffered bicycle lane. However, I will say that this type of edge line striping is typically not used by FDOT on 45 miles per hour roadways in urban areas. It's typically used in rural areas or on long bridges.
So can we pause there? And I was going to do this at the end of the meeting. Oops, Stacy, you want to go first?
I was just gonna, on this auditory, vibratory striping, because it works, I think, very well out of Martin Grade, but I think these work fantastic, but if you put these, those arrows down US 1 where you have to drive over those, flashing, what are those things called? Reflectors?
Pavement markings.
And so which are, by the way, we're gonna hopefully talk to FDOT about those at the end. They are absolutely distracting and terrible, and it conditions people to hear that kind of vibratory, as you're running those over all the time. So when they're running over these off the road, they're so used to hearing them in the middle of travel lanes, then these don't become as effective. Do you know what I'm talking about? The
big
three
arrows
giant arrows
pointing in the direction.
pointing in the direction you're supposed to be
Yeah.
driving,
Yeah.
up and down US 1 from Monterey all the way north of Jensen Beach Boulevard. Again, I hopefully we can talk to DOT at the end, but I love this strategy, this auditory. But if you condition people to not listen to them by having those everywhere in the middle of lanes, reflectors, then this strategy no longer becomes an effective strategy, in my opinion.
We do have a long-term strategy that we're hoping to move toward, but that this would be an interim implementation. But just one thought on those large arrows with the raised pavement markers in them. Those also are typically not installed in urbanized areas on 45-mile-per-hour roadways. You tend to see those more on freeway on-ramps where the marking and the RPMs that are lit, or that have reflectors in them, I should say, are intended to notify motorists who are making a wrong-way maneuver onto potentially a freeway. So it is somewhat rare to see them on urban arterials, and that's why it's probably so sort of shocking as you're driving down US 1 and you keep seeing them and you run over the raised pavement markers with your tires. It is unusual to see them on freeway off-ramps. We drive over them all the time on urban roadways. We drive over them all the time on freeway off-ramps and probably don't think about it. But the intent is that they flash red lights at a motorist who is approaching from the wrong direction, if they're turning onto the road in the wrong direction.
So following up on this, and I know that this it just was a good segue to comment on this, and this has nothing to do with your corridor study, but it does, and it has to do with this whole idea. The other day, FDOT installed the Martin Drummond bike lane sign on the Sewell's Point Bridge, that the family sent a photo of them standing next to it, that we had asked them to name the bike lane in honor of the gentleman that was killed out there a couple months ago. My suggestion was going to be at some point during this meeting, and I'm bringing it up because you're on this slide. What I had hoped would happen next, and you're already kind of heading in that direction with this, is that we ask FDOT to do the auditable on that bridge, on the white striped line that separates the bike lane from the travel lane, and that we also, as a prototype, paint the bike lane green, the whole bike lane. Right now, they do these segmental pieces on US 1, and then they do the striped thing where there's a crossover between a right-hand turn off of a drive lane. And again, I know it's not your project, but I'm hoping FDOT is listening, that at least as a pilot idea of how do we make things safer, and I always find it interesting when we read the safety message with FDOT on a PD&E study, some of these things would dramatically change, I think, people's awareness. And Stacy, I hear what you're saying, but those audibles out on the grade, when you go over them, you cannot miss it. Like, you know you are driving on those things.
I like those on the grade.
And so I think if we did them on the bridge, just as a pilot to see, like if you were drifting off the drive lane, you would know it. And then you also have the colored stripe line, the green line that would cover over the entire bridge. Anyway, just as part of this discussion for the US 1 corridor.
That is absolutely consistent with our
The
recommendation.
more we move in that direction, I think relative to the safety side of this thing will improve dramatically.
And the Roosevelt Bridge, being that it is a long bridge, and obviously it's a concrete surface, it is one of the use cases that were originally established by FDOT for the use of the audible and vibratory edgeline striping. So we're sort of going to try to build from that and recommend that the rest of the corridor include it as well, because of the safety concerns that have been noted in the report.
Tell you how crazy it is. There was a kid yesterday going northbound on the Roosevelt on one of these Razor scooters, and he was flying. Like, it's not like a regular Razor, little scooter like a kid has. I mean, he was doing like 40 miles an hour, and it was blowing like crazy. And I'm thinking, at what point does a gust of wind hit him and shift him out of the bike lane into the traffic?
Sounds like he's
nuts,
installed a motor on that scooter.
No, they
Nuts.
do. They're motorized electric.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't. It was the single wheel.
Oh.
He was on, it wasn't the Razor thing, I forgot. He was on like a gyro wheel going up the bridge and nuts. All right, keep going, sorry.
Yeah, so shifting to kind of the same concept, which is safety separation for bicyclists, but moving toward what a long-term recommendation would be, and this would require reconstructing US 1, and that would be to implement what's called sidewalk level separated bicycle lanes. This is an approved type of bicycle facility that is in the FDM, the FDOT design manual. It relocates the bicyclist essentially to the pedestrian realm rather than the on-road realm. So what this would look like in practice would be, if you notice on this graphic, if you look at the sidewalk areas either on the left or the right, you see the concrete sidewalk, and the bicycle lane would be adjacent to the concrete sidewalk rather than adjacent to the asphalt roadway. And there would be some sort of a texturized surface between the bike lane and the sidewalk. So it's not a shared use path where all of the bicyclists and separated are in the exact same space, but there's still designated space for walking and designated space for biking. One of the ancillary benefits that we feel like this could have would be that it would narrow the traveled way asphalt width of the roadway. So right now there's 4 lanes northbound, 4 lanes southbound. Then there's the buffer between the car lanes and the bike lane. Then there's the bike lane itself. So the road appears very wide, especially when you're driving it during non-congested times. You just have this great amount of space to yourself as you're traveling northbound or southbound. So what this would do as an ancillary benefit would be ever so slightly reduce the feel of how wide the road is, because the drainage curb would be coming inward toward the car lanes rather than being outward to accommodate the bicycle lanes.
And I think, Stuart, one thing you also ought to study and look at, and this is something else we talked about with Mr. Drummond's passing, is that even on the Roosevelt or on bridges where you have the Jersey barriers, and I would move the Jersey barriers out to the edge, and I'd have the bike lane, speed bike lane inside of it and the pedestrian lane inside of it, but you've at least got the Jersey barrier as a full-on separation between the drive line and the bridge. Because those speeds that you said that are on US 1 North, I don't doubt that the congestion and the speed at which they are up there, but the reason why the Sheriff's Department and the Stewart PD are up on the bridge these days is because of some of the crazy accidents we've had, and we had a rollover Tuesday, Monday on the south side, I guess, of the bridge. People don't do anything less than 60 on the bridge, and so, the congestion part north of the bridge, I agree, it's probably 30 miles an hour. But on the bridge, people fly on that bridge.
Yeah, and that's one of the safety concerns. They fly on the bridge until they hit the back of the northbound congestion, and they have to abruptly come to a stop. And sometimes that can be with limited visibility. If you're driving up the bridge, you don't realize maybe that there's congested traffic queue on the downward slope. We're also looking at signal and traffic operations improvements. These would be vehicle detection and adaptive traffic signal control to help coordinate the signals somewhat better. We're also looking at signal timing refinements as well as potential modifications to the laneage on some of the approach streets that connect to US 1. In particular, Goldenrod, Britt, and Jensen Beach Boulevard are 3 that we are looking at making some modifications to laneage on those approaches to try to improve the safety and the efficiency of flow on the approach to US 1. And then finally, on the technology side, a technology called Integrated Corridor Management. This is something that FDOT is rolling out, and it's something that could help the traffic to flow better, but also help the communications along the roadway to the traffic operators. And speaking of communications, recommending the use of arterial dynamic message signs, or DMS, to help communicate real-time traffic information to motorists. So those are the the strategies, congestion management strategies that we've been working on. Now I'm going to pass it off to Bonnie to do the presentation on the public engagement, including we have these business cards for the project, which have been out on the table in front of the room here. But that's just one of the many strategies that we've been using to reach out to the public, engage them, and get their input and make sure that their thoughts are not only heard, but included within our recommendation. Bonnie?
Bonnie, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Bonnie Landry and Associates. So I'm going to talk to you about our focused effort to include the public in these strategies so that we can make sure what we prepare mirrors what they would like. So we've already had the 2 open houses. We had the first open house at Flagler Center in May, and we did polling on what is the problem from your perspective as the public. And then we had a second set of polling very recently at the Hoke Library in October, and we took some of the strategies that we have in the draft plan and said, which of these strategies do you think would be best? For those who could not come to the live meetings, we had online survey, which is still ongoing. That survey is going to close off on October 31st. As I said, we did have live polling at the meetings. People could put their input via comment cards, email, and there's a project webpage on MPO's website where they can put their input as well. And we did a great job promoting them through press releases, the QR code for people to easily get the survey flyers, and we did signage along the corridor. As Stuart had mentioned, we do have a project advisory committee, which includes experts in the field, engineering, law enforcement, regional planning council, FDOT, and other experts in this field to kind of guide the project. And we had a video diary, which I'll talk about later. So as I mentioned, when we were at our most recent event, we did a short poll on the mitigation strategies that Stuart mentioned. We explained to them what they were and had them, the Project Advisory Committee and the Joint MPO Committee, put their input on which of these strategies they think they would most like. And I'm going to show you the results. So of those polled, the greatest number of them think that the improvements would be best served from Britt Road to Jensen Beach Boulevard, which means they think that's the worst section of this roadway. The majority of those polled also believe that the joint access driveway connections is the most effective way to make improvements to US 1. And it was interesting that 100% of the public supported that method, 61% of the Joint Committee and PAC. Majority of those polled believe that a joint access driveway, and this is the location that they selected, was Treasure Coast Mall to Target. They thought that that would be the most beneficial out of all the choices that they looked at.
Bonnie, can you go back just real quick? The D connection,
Between the high school, yes.
that is something that is just a bad safety thing, that by not having it, like a multimodal path going through there, because tons of kids
Do it anyway.
go to Starbucks and go over to the high school,
Yep.
and they do it anyway.
They do it anyway. And we heard that one of the people we interviewed was the Longhorn Steakhouse. He said he sees it all the time, the kids cutting through. And there's not a proper way to do it, but they do it anyway. Yep. So also, the majority of people believed, that we polled, believed that the adaptive signal controls would also be very effective in managing the congestion. 90% of the public and 80% of the other 2 pollees believe either strongly support or they're not really sure about the dynamic message signs as a strategy. Majority believe that the way to reduce traffic, again, is that interproperty multimodal connectivity. And it is important to say multimodal, because like that connection with the high school, that would just be a pedestrian connection. So we do feel we've had great participation on the online survey. So far, we've had 270 responses. The QR code on the cards, as Stuart mentioned, is a really quick way. They scan it with their phone, they do the survey, it's really quick, and those results go right to our account with SurveyMonkey. Another interesting thing, one of the questions we asked for the online participants is, are you a resident of Martin County? 78% of those who participated are Martin County residents. Transportation choice, 97% believe that they want to drive. And we believe that some of it was related to the feeling safe as a pedestrian or a cyclist. They're not all cut through traffic. 55% of those polls utilize US 1 for going to dinner, errands, shopping, et cetera. It's not just people cutting through all the time. And 54% visit multiple locations, meaning kind of what commissioner said, they'll go to Target or they'll go to the mall, but they do it all in one trip while they're out. They just make a list of places to stop. So 54% of those believed that the stretch between Joan Jefferson to Britt Road was the most congested. 73% do look for alternative routes, especially when the traffic is backed up. Those polled, more than half have experienced close calls or accidents or crashes. And unfortunately, 86% of those we polled felt unsafe traveling that stretch of road. So we're trying to make it better. A fun part of my job, and I brought Lucine with me, we went and talked to people along the corridor. We asked the people who either lived there or had a business along that route in that section. We asked them a series of questions. We gave them a choice about whether we just took notes, or hey, could we take your picture, or hey, can we videotape you? So we did it on their comfort level, and of course, if we videoed, we got the video. We had them sign off on it. So in these 20 interviews, those that we talked to, they thought Jensen Beach Boulevard, Joan Jefferson Way were the two worst intersections that needed the most improvement. They felt the worst time of day was 4:30 to 6 at night. And again, I think Stuart talked about it. It's the running the red lights. It's blind spots, like you're trying to make a U-turn, but you can't see over the big vehicles. There's no view, so you don't feel safe. So you wait, and the person behind you doesn't want to wait, and they start beeping their horn. So then it leads to kind of aggressiveness on US 1. Oh, and they also felt that the bike lanes were not protected.
They're not. They're not.
You're not. That is one of the things that they asked for. So these are a couple of the photographs of the people we took who did not want to be videotaped. We went to the Guggen Coffee Shop, Gold's Gym, Best Buy, all within that section. And here's a map of all the places that we interviewed, and so you can see we tried to distribute it equally along the route of the project. We also made an effort to not just do one industry group, meaning we've got retail, we've got lodging, property management, homeowners associations, dining, medical. So we tried to make sure it was over a bunch of industry groups for the people we spoke with. So hopefully we are going to be able to show you the video. We had a little bit of technology concerns previously. Oh, and before he starts it, I do want to say one thing. The great thing that came out of this is we made those first contacts with people to see whether or not they would be interested in connecting the parking lots. And one of the people we spoke to was Southern Cotton, which used to be Calico Corners. It's a significant connection. She was very interested. She said, let's start with a pedestrian connection, and then maybe, making that automobile connections more expensive. But she's the property owner, so we thought, okay, that was good. So we're going to show you the video, and you'll see her on this video. Thank you.
Let me go grab NCTV.
Bonnie, is this the shorter version?
Unfortunately, no. We had some issues with the shorter version. But while he's working on the sound, if y'all have any other questions for me or Stuart, we can take them now.
The only thing I would add, Stuart, and I just thought about this when Bonnie was doing her who you interviewed and who you didn't. Portofino, towards the north end of all of this, it is like its own little island up there, and it's not really connected to much of anything to the south. I think that would be another place I would look to. I know there's a huge transmission FPL thing in the middle of it all, or in the way of it all, but a way to connect it by some kind of multimodal path or something to the south to get it down towards Treasure Coast Mall. The people who live there, every one of them have to get in a car and get onto US 1 to go anywhere. They can't get anywhere south because there's no connection, safe of any sort. So I don't, with the FPL thing, I don't know how you fit it in there, but there might be some kind of an opportunity to figure out that as part of your study area for interconnections, how do you connect Portofino to them?
We'll look at that. There are definitely examples of shared use paths in FPL rights of way. It's somewhat rare, but there are examples that we could look to.
Great, thanks.
Even though it's a 6-lane road, it's not big enough to handle all the traffic.
It holds things up, it's not easy.
I feel that when the traffic gets congested, that's when people get impatient.
Tense and nervous. I usually try to avoid it as much as possible.
I feel inconvenienced. I don't know that I've ever felt unsafe. I just feel like that it's crowded.
I live on US 1. I turn off on US 1 every single day, so I use it all the time. This morning alone, I had to wait, almost 6 minutes just to be able to take a right-hand turn.
Most of it is for shopping, dining, or just going down to beautiful Stewart to walk around.
2:33 till probably 5 o'clock. Northbound is real bad.
If I left at 6:45, I would have very little traffic. If I left at 7 a.m., it would take me 30 minutes to get to I-95 southbound.
It's mostly afternoon is when I see the problem.
Certain times of the day, it gets pretty crazy around lunchtime.
I don't want to be going south at like 3 o'clock.
The worst is when school's in, especially with Jensen Beach High School.
Up by the commercial areas close to the Treasure Coast Square Mall, that seems to be what's leading to the backups.
Jensen Beach, I feel like, is really bad.
On the north side of the Roosevelt Boulevard.
Britt Road gets very congested.
I think it's not safe in any way, shape, or form.
And sometimes I get cautious because if there's a backup, people do whip through these parking lots.
But it's so funny. You can always tell the people to live here because we sit at the intersection, and you'll have people beeping behind you like, "No, we're stopped for a reason." We were having an accident at least once a month. Oh my God! And then we just had one not very long ago. They had a rollover and ended up in my little gully out here in the front.
At the intersection of Joan Jefferson and US 1, we've replaced our sign there more than a couple of times.
The amount of people blowing through red lights because of the backup and not wanting to have to stop again.
And we have people, that are trying to quickly turn off and get to a plaza.
You see these guys doing this with the motorcycle?
It's at least a couple times a week that we have, everybody's getting up from their chair because we hear the screech and the bang.
I have a lot of foot traffic and bicyclers.
I ride my bike. I do whatever is necessary, though, not to ever have to cross Route 1.
I think the intersection here at Joan Jefferson can be very dangerous for pedestrians, for sure. But I think an overall improvement in how traffic flows through there and utilizing some of the alternatives, to get people off of that roadway. I don't really think that the expansion of US 1 per se is really a solution to that problem.
Connecting parking lots and just making it safer.
I have never ridden the Marty bus, but I see a lot of people that do.
I would consider it. I'm definitely all about mass transportation.
I think it's something good. I think it's something we should.
I have thought about it here within the past 6 months about riding it because it just cuts down on the traffic.
Okay, so that kind of demonstrates what we heard, the people who were agreeable to being on video. So we put that together. Sorry about the length. We had a shorter version, but it didn't work. So we appreciate your attention to the longer version. And this video will be on the website to help, promote the project and demonstrate what we heard. And sometimes it's good to see what we heard instead of just the written word. So.
Great, thanks, Bonnie. Anybody have any questions, comments? Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stuart, wherever Stuart went to.
Hard like me.
He had to get to another meeting.
Okay. Item 8E.
Yes, this is the Development Review Interactive Map. Ricardo Vasquez of the MPO will give you all an update,
Good afternoon, good morning.
our quarterly update.
Yep. So as far as the map goes, at the last meeting, it was mentioned that it may have been a little bit too difficult to find the map. So what we did is we went ahead and put a button on the very first page of the website. You'll see Development Review Interactive Map underneath our little picture slider. So you can get to the map pretty easily now. As far as the map update goes and our new unified planning work program that you all approved in June, we are doing quarterly updates to this map now. Before we were doing it twice a year, now we're doing it 4 times a year. So that'll mean the map is a little more up to date with the current development as it pertains to the different municipalities. Of course, the county does keep a good system of their development review process, so a lot of the county's projects are up to date. We do work with the City of Stewart staff and the Village of Indiantown staff to get your shape files as best we can, but there's a little bit more of a lag or delay in getting those projects in here correctly. But if you're reviewing the map and see that there's a project that's been approved or already constructed and that's not being reflected on our map, please let us know so we can kind of clean some of those issues up. And again, we're updating this map 4 times a year, and not to explain the map in detail to you all every single time we meet. I knew we have Sean Reed, who's a new member of the board. The red lines and the red dots on the map are the list of project priorities that you all approved in June, and that's a good way for you guys to kind of pick out certain projects that you guys are prioritizing in relation to the current development that's happening in the area. So with that, if you guys have any questions on how to use the map, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to walk you through how to navigate the map and use different layers or different settings on there. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Susan?
Yeah, I would just like to express that in speaking with Beth, I let her know that at our last joint meeting, that this was highlighted, that people would be able to go to and utilize it. So that, I think, was says a lot.
Anybody else? Anything? It's great stuff, it really is. For those that want to use it and want to figure out what's going on, there you go. All right. Carl, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Item 8F, 710 update.
Yes, Tony Norat is here from the District 4 office to give FDOT's update on the State Road 710 project.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everyone, my name's Tony Norat. I'm the planning supervisor. And normally you get this update from Ron Cariva, but he couldn't make it today, so I'll be giving, I'll be reading off my phone the update that he provided. So in regards to the ongoing construction in the Tommy Clemens left turn lane widening project, it's still ongoing and remains on schedule for completion later this year. Once that's completed, the plan is to begin the right turn lane project immediately after. Staff has been coordinating with push-button contracts so that they'll be ready once the project is over. In regards to the County Road 714 realignment at State Road 710, design is ongoing and on schedule. Right-of-way is fully funded and construction funds are being sought out via multiple means. One of them is Senate Bill 100 and also partially funded through the CIS. And the FDOT PM is Damaris Williams. And then we go to State Road 710 widening from southeast 126th Ave in Okeechobee County to southwest Van Buren in Indiantown. Design is ongoing as well and on schedule. Right-of-way is also funded, fully funded, and construction funds are also being sought out through multiple means, which is Senate Bill 100 and partially through the CIS. And the PM for that is Robert Lopez. And that's pretty much it.
So I'm sure Susan wants to weigh in at some point. But it's good news to hear that all the right-of-way acquisition is fully funded.
As far as I know, everything, all the right-of-way is funded.
Because that's, to the best of my knowledge, understanding, that's probably the biggest hiccup,
Yeah.
getting that done. Those funds are available now, or they're coming this fiscal year?
From what he sent me here, it says right-of-way is fully funded on both projects.
Okay, great.
I was going to comment on that also. That is encouraging. To put a finer point too, it's scheduled to be completed by the end of the year, or, okay, so we're kind of coming up on that fast, but do we have an exact, okay, by the end of November?
I asked him the same question. He
Good.
didn't respond because he
Oh, okay.
was in a meeting, but the end of the year is around the corner, so I
Yeah,
would
it is.
imagine
It'll be wrapping it up quickly.
Soon.
And then, as you expressed, you already have somebody waiting in the wings in order to, once that is completely signed off on, that they'll be able to step up. That is encouraging. And let me just express to you from the people in Indiantown and Western Martin County, we appreciate your diligence in making sure that getting this done, because it literally is a life and death situation. Because we have people in our community that have lost loved ones on that road. And it's just in recent history. Plus, people passing through that aren't even in from our community, from Tampa or from Georgia, that have lost their lives on that road. So thank you for all that you do. It is definitely appreciated.
It's our pleasure, and it's our job to listen to you guys and do the best that we can. We understand, and sometimes we have to go, in a different direction just to help you guys out. So
thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing I would recommend, Susan, Indiantown, stay on top of, and it's not that what you said isn't accurate, but the difference between the existing contract and the push pin, whatever we call that, to the next one, to the right-hand turn lane, stay on top of that so we don't lose 6 months in between when one finishes and the next one starts. The hope is that literally the day we finish the one, we move like immediately into the second one.
Yeah, absolutely. We get it. And again, all the way from the secretary down, we understand the importance of the project. So
Great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anything for FDOT while we're here?
Yes.
Stacy?
Could you give us a brief insight on the arrows that are going up in US 1 from, say, Colorado intersection south and north of the bridge? And are you going to continue those on the entire stretch of US 1?
So I don't have any of those updates provided, but I can get back to you as soon as possible. I'll try to get that by today.
That'd be
and
great.
send back
Thank
to
you.
you. Sure.
I guess the question is there a new policy, like directive with FDOT to start putting on resurfacing projects like on US 1, those arrows, the full length of US 1? I mean, is that like a new, it's just an interesting addition to what's out there that, or is it just in a very tight urban section that we're seeing?
I haven't heard of any new policy being put in place. I know that we're trying to listen to the community and do our due diligence. So I can get back to you, and I know that we are trying to get as many resurfacing projects as we can in there. But like I said, I don't want to speak to something I'm not 100%.
You can just get us an answer maybe?
Absolutely. By later today, I'll try to get you.
And if we're listening to the community, I'll tell you I've received nothing but really negative impact on those reflective arrows, mostly because of the vibration it causes and the distraction it causes you while driving.
Interesting. Commissioner Hurd?
Well, I was just so baffled that they were there at all. What's the alternative? I mean, it seems so redundant. Well, okay, US 1, we're going, we got 3 lanes going north. Why on earth are there arrows marking it?
It's not.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think, we have to go back to the study and see some of the recommendations. A lot of times, people are traveling in different lanes and not paying attention to the signs and kind of jumping over another lane last minute. So it's kind of to give the driver a warning, usually. But I have to go back to the study and find out. We'll get you
You're
guys.
just the messenger, right?
I'm the messenger, but I'll take the stones. It's okay.
No, it's okay.
I had my assistant back there. She was taking notes. She
Great, thank
disappeared on me right now.
Thanks for the update.
She's like,
Anything else?
Yeah.
Anything
My
else on
pleasure.
710?
No, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
When's our next MPO meeting?
Our next MPO meeting is December 16th.
In that case, I would like to thank Commissioner Smith for all of your years and your attentiveness on the MPO. You've made a terrific contribution.
Thank you all very much. Anything else further from FDOT? Was that your FDOT comments too? Good enough. We don't have any advisory board meeting or members in the audience?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
see.
Yes, sir. I would like to, I'm a advisory, isn't that an advisory board?
Oh,
But I'm going to
well,
take
yeah,
this
it's like an
opportunity, can I,
advisory board. Sure, you can talk about that, yeah,
The
absolutely.
Transportation for Disadvantaged Board that I chair, I would like to say and tell this board, thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to do that.
Thank you for doing it.
It has been a privilege and an honor to actually serve on that committee and meet those people that this board is responsible to, because it is a very needful thing for the most vulnerable in our society. And they are precious, and they are involved. So I would like to, and they feel forgotten, they really do. So I would like to respectfully request that this board consider, moving forward, that whoever happens to replace me on this board, if you would consider allowing them to chair that committee, because it impacts our residents so much. I would appreciate that. So, thank you.
And just to add on to that, I just wanted to mention that because of Councilmember Gibbs Thomas' leadership of that board, that for the transportation disadvantaged, as well as the local contribution of the board, Martin County Board of County Commissioners, and the Village of Indiantown, and the City of Stewart, and Lucine Martins actually staffs the board. So with all of that hard work, we actually won the 2024 Outstanding Coordinating Board of the Year Award for the state of Florida recently. So that was very exciting. And Susan Gibbs Thomas actually was at the annual conference for the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantage, and she's accepted that award on behalf of the Martin County LCB.
And and once again, it was a privilege and an honor to do that. And I don't know if everyone is really aware of these small steps that we do, and we do them together, the huge difference that it makes. Because stepping out with $12,500, Indiantown did, and then the City of Stewart matching it, and then the Board of County Commissioners stepping up and improving what they did over a 2-year period, it has equaled more than $250,000. So it is very impactful, these things that we do, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Nice job, Susan. Board member comments. I have just a few little comments I would make on my way out. First and foremost, Susan, thank you for your time, your representation. Your representation for Indiantown will be remembered for a very long time. You came in at a time when a lot of things were changing politically, but also physically changing on 710. Your advocacy, your role, the role on this board, but also as a city council member or mayor, has made a huge difference for Indiantown. And I hope as a community that whoever does fill that seat continues on with the care and the love that you have for your constituents. It's really something special to see. Thank you for that. Secondly, I would say this about the MPO and Beth Beltran. I told her this the other day at our one-on-one meeting. I've worked with 3 or 4 maybe coordinators. The MPO is a mystery. It always was a mystery anyway, at least before Beth. It tends to be, I think, one of the more confusing, difficult to understand acronym. Where does the money go? Why does the money go? How does it go? How does FDOT make decisions? Why do we do all the planning exercises that we do with the federal government? Why do we have to cross the T's and dot the I's? Because at the end of the day, the money that it does draw down from the state through the federal government makes a difference in our local community at every single level. And without Beth, quite honestly, it would still be a black box. It was a black box before she got here. And you have single-handedly made, at least for me, and I assume for the rest of the board members, a black box that is understandable, and that I hope whoever sits in the chairs moving forward take the time to get to know Beth. She is a remarkable MPO coordinator and probably one of the best in the state. So Beth, thank you very much. With that, members, our next MPO Policy Board meeting is December 16th, 2024. Commissioner Campy, your light is on.
Well, we have 3 board members departing the MPO as this is their last meeting, and I echo the comments that
Quiet down there.
Commissioner Hurd had for Commissioner Smith. He said that this was sort of a obscure area for him, but he's a champion in this category. He has, even just today as an example, I was getting frustrated with how much he was speaking, but I was cutting him some slack since it was his last meeting. But all kidding aside, he is really very astute in all areas of the county. He can talk about a little side street in downtown Stewart as well as he could talk about a street in Hobe Sound or out in Indiantown. He really, really excels at this level, and his absence will be noted because, look, he as an elected official really took this on, and the details, and he's an expert with the time that he's been here on how the funding works and how the projects have to be designed and done in a certain way or you get no money. And then what he said about Susan Gibbs Thomas is what she's brought to the position in everything she touches, whether it's Parks and Rec or public safety or drainage or utilities. She's brought a real level-headedness in a time out in Indiantown when it was desperately needed. When they start discussing privatizing public safety and, or the lack of leadership they had prior to Ms. Krista showing up, it wasn't, I know that you weren't interested originally in incorporation, but as Ms. Krista said the other day, once you realized that it was happening, you completely embraced it. And not just Indiantown, but the county in general is a better place because of your service.
Thank you.
Now, the guy in the end who doesn't normally like to have any kind of conversation would have preferred that we just left. I was hoping. Without even mentioning it. But, he's a statesman. He's a dear friend. He has done remarkable for our county in the short time that he has been a commissioner. He has made decades of improvements that our residents will, especially down in South County and in Indiantown. I think out of all of the commissioners, and I used to split up Indiantown before he completely land grabbed every portion of the county at the last census, he's been the strongest advocate for Indiantown that we have ever had. And, taking that title away from Patrick Hayes is something.
Well, let me also note there, he has also been the strongest advocate for the county in Indiantown because he would always, when possible, he would always be at our meetings.
That's what I mean.
Physically at our meetings.
Yeah, really took the time to keep Indiantown very much front and center. And what he has accomplished in Hobe Sound for his district constituents will last a lifetime, but also the projects in Palm City and in the rest of the county where his vote was so necessary to get something done. They love him everywhere he goes. We will, it's not going to disappear, but Palm City Chamber, the folks that live in Palm City, they love him, and so do I. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
So, and I appreciate that, and I was trying to sneak out without any fanfare, but I have really enjoyed working with the MPO. I'm a little thick, so it took me 2 classes at the MPO AC to completely grasp the whole concept. No, I have still yet to grasp the whole concept because it's extremely hard to understand, but anybody that hasn't attended the new ones, the MPO AC, they do try to make it fun for the most boring subject matter available, but I want to echo all of our commissioners about Commissioner Smith. He is going to be sorely missed. I don't think a lot of folks understand what he brings to the table. And I think once he's gone, they're going to have a little bit different opinion. So he's, before I was commissioner and when I was considering being commissioner, he counseled me, and
Don't do it.
everything he said has come true, and the challenges, yep, they were there, and I thoroughly appreciate it, and I consider all of my commissioners friends. Susan and I became dear friends. As everybody I'm sure knows, we went to high school together, and we didn't necessarily know each other, but that's how long we've been around. And I've enjoyed working with Indiantown, enjoyed working with the MPO. It's been a life experience that not a lot of people get, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I would wrap it up with this. I think the consistent piece of Susan and Harold both, you have to love your home. You have to love your place. And every action that I've watched them do, they absolutely love where they live. They love their community. And they do what has to happen to make it the best it can be. And to both of you, you both deserve that. And with that, Beth, do you have any parting words?
We do have a federal audit coming up, so that's the 11th.
Lovely.
Last out before the meeting to each of you, just as a heads up.
On the best note you could end this on.
I'm sorry. So just as an FYI, the next couple of meetings, the agendas may be kind of dotting the i's and crossing the t's. There may be some items
That's what
on
makes
those.
you so special. Anything else?
Thank you.
I just want to add, I agree with all the comments that have been made about your roles on the MPO. You've all done a terrific job. But Doug, until now, I had completely forgotten Beth's predecessors. And you're absolutely right. There is just no comparison. I had blanked out all of your predecessors. She's remarkable.
Thank you.
And she leads a great team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
We are.